Demonstrators in Myanmar have gathered in their largest numbers yet to demand an end to military rule. Opponents of the February 1st coup doubt the military will keep its promise to hold elections and hand back power. Deposed leader Aung San Suu Kyi remains in jail, facing trivial criminal charges. Hundreds of thousands joined rallies in cities across the country despite fears of a violent crackdown.
A battle cry for democracy. Tens of thousands of protesters flooding the streets of Yangon, stepping up their open revolt against the military takeover. Cars used as roadblocks to keep security forces from moving around the commercial capital. In this cat-and-mouse game, it appears that for now, it's the might who have the upper hand. Internet shutdowns and other attempts to disrupt the demonstrations have largely proved futile. Even the junta's assurances of free and fair elections have been met with deep skepticism, exacerbated by fresh criminal charges against Aung San Suu Kyi. The young people of this generation don't have to believe in the military's promises. They lied before, and they'd hold an election back in 1988, so we've already learned our lesson from that page of history. There's growing concern that Myanmar's bloody history could be about to repeat itself. The UN says it's received reports of soldiers being readied for a crackdown in Yangon, sparking fears that scenes like this are merely a taste of what's to come. But as this activist told DW News, they're not backing down.
No, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. We have been under the military control for years. So this is the time we have to finish them. This time we will win. This time we want our true democracy. We no longer want the military anymore ruling our country.
As the world watches with bated breath, for many here in Myanmar, there's only one way out of this. Forward, with their fists high, even if no one knows where that road will lead them.
Well, let's go straight to Yangon, where we join journalist A. Min Thant. Welcome to DW. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar says he's terrified about signs of an impending military crackdown in Yangon. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely seen an escalation from security forces in terms of both who is on the ground, the type of equipment they're using, as well as a general increase in the frequency of usage of weapons. And so from the first few days of the protests, we really saw, traffic police, some riot police, but for the most part, they were staying behind barricades. And then as we've moved into the last couple days, we've seen more soldiers on the streets as opposed to simply police. We've seen tanks and armored personnel carriers, as well as just more and more usage of rubber bullets, water cannons, and just firing at protesters, both in an attempt to disperse people, but also we've been seeing people getting beaten and sort of being aimed at.
Right. And away from the marches, there's also a campaign of civil disobedience. What sort of effect is that having?
So the civil disobedience movement is, it really started off as a way for civil servants, especially to strike and to essentially refuse to cooperate with the new government, but it has spread to other parts of society as well. And so, there's the sort of central banks, which have largely been shut down because civil servants are not working, but also private banks are also being shut down because quite a number of people are on strike. We see that railways are being disrupted in Myanmar. Border trade, especially along the border with China, has slowed nearly to a halt today. And, the public is joining in on these protests. And today we saw people essentially pretending all of their cars, as well as trishaws and bicycles, had broken down in the middle of the street as a way to both disrupt people who were trying to go to work despite the strike, but also to disrupt any sort of security force movement in the cities.
And what of Aung San Suu Kyi, now facing 2 criminal charges? Her court date was pushed back. What are you hearing about her fate?
So it's very unclear. We haven't really gotten a good visualization of her situation really since she was taken. We get information, very sporadically and sort of really late after the fact. On Monday, she was actually supposed to have her first day of trial, and instead of that happening, her remand was extended, and we were told that her trial would begin today. But then yesterday, we found out that she had her first meeting, or she had a meeting with a judge, and that an additional charge had been levied against her. And then, as far as I understand, her next court date is actually March 1st now. But, we don't really know what's going to happen in the meantime, and she hasn't officially been allowed to have legal representation, although the NLD, the National League for Democracy, her party has retained lawyers on her behalf.
Thank you so much for that update. Journalist Amin Thant in Yangon.